Hi guys, my name is Mutombo and I am a digital illustrator from Cameroon. Today I'm going to be recreating an original Natalia Madej illustration, and she actually opened this up on her Instagram as a draw this in your style contest, and I decided to participate. I'm going to put up her Instagram post right here. I used the 2019 iPad with the Apple Pencil. This is the first generation Apple Pencil, and here I just have a grip to help me grip the pencil. Without further ado, let's get straight into the illustration process. I start by importing the picture from Natalia's Instagram to my Procreate canvas. I use a 3000 by 3000 canvas for almost all my illustrations, and on the iPad 7 it gives me about 25 layers, which is more than enough for most of my illustrations. I start off with a rough sketch and I use a lot of geometric shapes. I use the select tool a lot to adjust my proportions, the pose, and any other thing that might need adjusting. At this point, my sketching is very light and very rough. I also flip the canvas a lot because one thing that I have learned is that when you draw on one side, it might look perfect until you flip it and you just see that everything is just off. So after my rough sketch, I create a new layer and start a cleaner outline on that new layer. After doing the new outline, I go in with an eraser and clean up all the rough work that I did earlier. When I'm finally happy with the outline, I duplicate the layer which carries the outline just because I don't want to modify the original outline that I did. I duplicate that outline and I change the blending mode to multiply just so that the outline can reflect the colors that I put underneath it. As you would notice in this video, I don't color over the sketch. I rather color underneath the sketch so that I can still see my sketch lines. That is just my personal style, and other artists do it differently. When it comes to shading the skin, I must admit I'm not a professional at shading yet. I'm still learning color theory and all of that, but I just go a few shades darker than my base skin color. I've learned not to go too dark because that ends up looking muddy. When I just started digital art, when I would put in the shading, I would go in with a smudge brush and smudge all over the shading, but recently I learned that I only need to smudge the edge of the shading to soften the lines, just to create a smoother transition between the base and the shadows.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
When it comes to the distress part of her jeans, I just looked for a chalky brush, and that is what I used to color in the distress part. And for the fibers going across her knees, I just used a simple HB pencil in white, and that did the job perfectly. It's nothing complicated. I usually find the hair very difficult to do, irrespective of the hairstyle that I'm doing. It's always a struggle, but honestly I really love the way the hair came out in this particular illustration. So just keep on watching to see how I achieve the hair. I'm not going to lie to you, another part that I don't like drawing are feet, hands, and shoes, especially shoes. Shoes are always a struggle for me, but I'm trying to stop shying away from them, which is why I'm drawing more full body poses this time around. Most of the time I focus on, just head and shoulders illustrations, but these days, if you go on my Instagram, which is Mutombo Visuals, you're going to see that I've done many more full body poses. sometimes it's more difficult to draw eyes or eyelashes on one side of the face than it is on the other side of the face. So if that is the case for you, just flip the canvas like I did before drawing the other eye or the other eyelash. I went ahead and added some blush on her face, and honestly that makes a world of a difference. And I also took the smudge brush and softened some of the lines that I had drawn on the face. Another thing that makes a world of a difference, highlights. Here I'm just putting on the highlights with no remorse whatsoever. In my illustrations, I use as many layers as I need, but I don't waste space, if that makes any sense. And typically I do my shading on a new layer. I clip a new layer over the base layer, and that is where I do my shading. To do the strands in the hair and the edges in the hair, the highlights, I use the hair brush from Haze Long's Procreate brush set. Right now, I'm just going in with my smudge brush and softening some of the lines on the skin. I went ahead and added some rings, which I ended up hating, and you see that these rings are not there in the final illustration. At this point, I am done with the majority of the work, so I go ahead and duplicate the canvas that I'm working on, just so that I can make a few changes while having the original canvas with all my layers still intact. Here I'm merging all the layers so that I can make adjustments without having to go on every layer and make a different adjustment. Like I mentioned earlier, this is the importance of flipping the canvas. I don't know if you guys noticed, but the eye was a bit off, so I adjusted the eye and then took my brush and picked off the skin color from around the eye and used that to fill it in. And then I went ahead with a smudge brush to blend out all the harsh lines from the part that I filled in. I did the exact same thing for the lips. Another thing too is there are little things in the illustration that need to make sense. If you notice, this shoelace was hanging in the air and it wasn't, respecting the laws of gravity, so I had to adjust it just the way I adjusted the eyes. At an earlier point in this illustration, I went ahead and just did a mock-up of what I wanted the environment to look like. I wanted her to not be sitting on the floor, but sitting on a ledge. At this point, I am done with the illustration of her body and I am ready to work on the background. So I go ahead and reduce the opacity of the sample background layer that I had done earlier. And this is where I put in my final background. I want the light source to be coming from us the viewer. I try to make the shadows fall behind her so that it respects the source of the light. Guys, this is a fun trick. A simple way of changing the lip color would be to create a new layer over what you have already done. Put that new layer on multiply and just pick whatever color you want to use to paint her lips. In my case, I use red, and I just take that red color and go over her lips, and that just gives me a luscious red lipstick. And you can simply go back and forth between these two lip colors by turning on and off the layer in which you painted the lips red, the multiply layer. Alright, that's all I have for you guys today. This is my first time showing my face on this channel, so I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned one or two things from me. I'm still growing as an artist, but I am more than willing to share everything I've learned so far in my journey with you. I've been doing digital art for 1.5 years, let's just say 18 months now, and I have learned a lot. I've learned a lot in this span of time, and I will be sharing everything on this channel, so stay tuned, subscribe, and keep working on your art. We are all going to improve. A few months from now, my art is going to be much better than it is right now. I know it because I know I'm always going to keep working on getting better. So I'm learning to appreciate the journey and my progress every step of the way. If you aren't an artist but just like to watch these art videos, you're welcome. Please subscribe, stay, and enjoy.